There. Hey, Facebook, everybody. I have no idea what's going on. I'm running behind, so I know. That's what I know. I got late, and I'm trying to make coffee, and I already got a couple of emails going, where are you? And a couple messages. And so I'm trying to do this while I'm going live. I'm trying to get this coffee made. We got coffee. We got grounds. Gonna scoop it in, pile it on, make it super strong, wake my mind up. Get that done. I'm not a multitasker at all. Trying to talk on this and pour water in it. Spreading water is beyond my capability almost. And I probably will not be able to see. I really don't know what I got going on here. I probably should just run a test and check and see how this works. Because I don't know what all these buttons are for. Oh, that's for me to write a comment. I don't want to write a comment. We've got things going, I think. And if people reply or say stuff, I'm probably not even going to see it. I'm too damn blind. Anyway, let me get finished here. A little bit more water. They should have audio so people could just talk to each other on live where, who's ever watching, you just be able to talk to you. And that's part of it, it's like, usually I keep to myself a lot. And I'm used to it, I just have been living in some versions of reality that a lot of people just don't ever, experience in their lives. And so it's been hard for people to understand, the kind of world I live in. It's like when I first got burned up, that set me apart. Just being through all that, from being hurt to healing to where do I go from there? It was a different world after that. And there was a lot of people that, could relate, and there's a lot of people who just don't. And you kind of got to go off on your own route that everybody else isn't going on. After things like that, when you have big permanent events in your life or changes, injuries or whatever you want to call it, when you have these big permanent changes that affect you differently than everybody else, they just take you away from everybody else. That's all there is to it. And then how I dealt with it. I ran out to live with the Indians, native tribe on a reservation in Wyoming. It's made my living chasing wild horses out of the hills and training them. And, that's how we lived. That's what we did. And darn it, I'm not ready for this. Here, I got to set this down. I only got one good hand in my life. That's why I ended up chasing, basically breaking horses and all that. I didn't have to read or write. And I quit for a long time because I couldn't see. And I got one good hand. So, I'm kind of limited in what I can do. I tried to go back to school after I got burned up. That was hopeless. I couldn't see good enough. We didn't have much computers in the early 90s. And large screens and texts and all that. Trying to set my phone up a little better. So just bit by bit, and then, my spiritual understanding. I woke up when I was 20 years old. That really set me apart. Knowing that this reality that everybody else is convinced is real is an illusion in your mind constructed, and that we are eternity. Way beyond all this, deep inside ourselves, our soul, or this spirit. I don't even think we have, through all our religious scriptures and teachings, from day one to spiritual understanding that we have gained in the modern times, and especially here in these last few years more recently, we still don't have a clue what spirit really is. It's like a conscious, living, loving energy. And when we say spirit, we just get too many ideas and forms attached to that word that just aren't really very accurate. If you just thought of all spirit as conscious living energies that have the capacity to love unconditionally in a way that love is more like an ability to perceive and experience and know. It's like that love on an unconditional level contains all things. Just like they say, love is all things. And when you're on that deepest spiritual, conscious living energy level of love, it knows everything. It's like God, you can call it God. And maybe that's what we should do right now. Just for simplifying things, just stick to some of these words and concepts that everybody's familiar with, like God, spirituality. And not worry about where it kind of might take us off track a little bit. I mean, we're all so far off track, worrying about going off a little bit off track over some misunderstanding of the exact meaning of a word. That's nothing to worry about. But this right now, this last couple of weeks, month, since I've had this eviction, look, it's just all cold and gray out there, you guys. It has been cold this morning. And I'm planning on trying to get out there on the road and, camp, traveling. I was going to just hitchhike to wherever I could to find a new place to rent. But it's evolved. And the only way to describe and explain the evolution that I'm going through of ideas and concepts and purpose and inspiration is probably just to back up all the way to the start, go chronologically. But anyway, now somebody just messaged something and I can't see. And I forgot. Well, that might be bad. Jeez, that could get me off track real easy. I dig down inside myself for this information and start talking about it, and then a bell goes off. That just like jerked me right out of the hole, and now I got to crawl back down in there and find out what I was talking about. Chronological. Oh yeah. This last couple of weeks, this month or so since the eviction and the fight, I got in a fight with a neighbor, and it was my fault. I started it. And he's a jerk, he pissed me off, and I blew up. What's new? People who know me know there's a lot of people here on Facebook that have known me pretty much my entire life. And I've always had this tendency. Everybody knows I have this history of blowing up, and I can just fight at the drop of a hat, it seems like. But for the most part, maybe 80, 90% of the time, I'm just Mr. Peaceful, cool, get on. But when I blow. And it's like, I'm really good at smashing a fucking face. Basic problem. I'm too good at it. I got real good at it as a young hippie growing up in a town of rednecks that all wanted to beat me up. So I learned how to fight really well. And I'm not that good a fighter, really. I'm just damn near impossible to beat up. That's the problem. Well, look at me. I got half my face blown off in an explosion, clean down to the bone. And it didn't slow me down enough to get the fuck out of the fire. I had to crawl up through the window, dive out onto my head, somersault so I didn't break my neck. I'm still in the fire, lay out flat on the road, and roll till I put myself out. Then assess the damage, and when the bones... But my fingertips are sticking out here, and I didn't know. I'm half blind. I can't see. Eddie's not moving. My friend in the fire in the truck, he didn't get out. And I'm trying to see how bad I am. I can smell it, but I can't see. And I was feeling around, and the bones and the fingertips, they hit right here where there was bone and teeth. It was just like I was biting onto an electric hot wire, man. It was just electric shock that blew my, And then I knew, I go, dude, you're Freddy Krueger. You got to sit your ass down. And I still took care of myself. Made sure I didn't go into shock. Just stayed calm, waited for somebody to show up. And they finally did. And they got me in the car. Away we go to the emergency room. And even at the emergency room, I still had to act and perform. Everybody lost it. I mean, I jumped out of that car and I was hurting bad by then. It was really gotten bad. And I was screaming at times in the car. We finally got to the emergency room, and he opened the door, the driver, and I just ran for those doors. And I kicked them open. I couldn't use my hands. I don't know if I'm still smoking or what, but the first thing I said was, I need a shot. And everybody just started losing it. Like, those two were just standing there, and this guy over here, he's just standing there spinning circles, screaming at the birds. Somebody get the doctor, somebody get the helicopter, somebody get the doctor, somebody get the helicopter. And I hauled off and I kicked him right in the ass. And he stopped. I go, you get the doctor, you get the helicopter, and you get my shot. And I laid my ass down on the bed. I go, take down these numbers. And they were cutting off my clothes and giving me that shot and taking down those numbers when I went out. That's where I went out when that shot hit me. I didn't remember nothing for 3 weeks. But, you know, it's like it takes a lot. The moral of the story is it takes a lot to slow me down. Or you punching me in the face probably isn't going to do it. And probably a whole bunch of whatever you got to deliver with your body, just punches and kicks, it ain't going to do it. It's more than that. There's something spiritual going on here. It's an energy. It's a force field. And it protects my body. And it might sound goofier in hell right now to a lot of people when I talk like this, but I've seen it for a long time. Way back when I was in my early 20s and we were eating amanitas was the first time I seen it. I discovered amanitas were growing where we had some pop fields growing in my early 20s. And I'd had a big spiritual experience on the psilocybin mushrooms a couple years before. And I'd read about a lot of things, trying to learn what my spiritual experience was. I woke up. And went to eternity. We are... Anyway, let's not go there. It's too big. But anyway, I was awake. And I'm trying to find out what's going on. And I can't find nothing in none of the spiritual teachings, none of the religions. I read every damn book in the University of... What is it? UW? University of Washington, Olympia, whatever the university is in Olympia, Washington. I was in that library for 2 years, read every spiritual text they had in that library. Nothing. There was a few hints of, you know, the peak mystical experience. But they really didn't have a very, it was as close as it got to my experience, but it wasn't that, it didn't go far enough. It wasn't far enough. But it hinted at being able to go as far as I had gone. That's what I came away with. Mystical. It was in nature. Natives were living in nature, and their spirituality was basically mystical. And so that kind of rang a bell too. My religions is in natives. After that, as far as spirituality just in general went. Anyway, so now I've learned about amanitas. We found some. We're experimenting, and we're getting these hellacious ego deaths, psychological deaths, where you go through the death experience, but you don't really die. Oh my God! And we're feeding them to our friends. I mean, we found a whole bunch of them. We're just trying to treat them like, you know, regular psychedelics, and everybody have some. And they were weird. Everybody would eat the same amount. And one person might not feel anything. The other one is feeling like, nice little trip. And the other guy over here is throwing his stereo out through the front window because it's the devil. And God told him to get rid of it. I mean, you just kind of really lose it on those things when you go for it. When you go over it. It's hard. You snap so hard into an alternate reality, it's really hard to pull yourself out until they wear off. You know, you got to... I came to the conclusion the best way to eat amanitas was just to tie yourself with like chains and shit that you can't break. Like rope, you might break rope. But tie yourself to a tree with something you can't break, like chains or cable or something. Because it's a weird superpower that kind of comes over during part of that high. It's weird. Anyway, I was experiencing it. It was like a force field. And I had drugged, instead of this the stereo speaker through the window or whatever I was talking about earlier, I had dragged the kitchen table out into the street and was smashing it to smithereens because it was the devil. And then by then the cops showed up, and they were too afraid to get out of their car. They were just sitting in their car looking at me. I got this upturned table legs, half this little chunk of top of the table at the bottom for a base, and this leg pointing up in the air, sitting out there in the street where I left it, and I'm feeling it. You know, it's like I've got this force field going on. It's impenetrable. And those cops pull up, and I can see they're scared. And I just walk up and I just bang my head on the hood about as hard as I could. Just bang my head right on the hood. It's the spirit force. They're like, yeah, right, okay, we can get down there. And then I turned around, and to prove even more that I had this force field going on, I did this big swan dive right on top of that table leg sticking out. And normally it should have just busted and penetrated right into my chest by full weight. I mean, I put it all on it. Didn't even hurt. And I knew it was going to be like that because when Corby and Richard were trying to hold me down there, I was kind of dragging them around over there. They had a hold of each arm, but I was dragging them. They couldn't hold me. And then we got to this bedpost, and I flung them forward, and their weight pulled me onto a bedpost in the bedroom at that point, and it didn't hurt. And with all their added weight and force, so I knew that table leg wasn't going to be able to penetrate me either because of that. Anyway, that is my first experience of anything like this. And it kind of got relegated to, well, maybe not. I mean, we're on psychedelics. Who knows what the hell's going on, for real. And then we fast forward to this fight with the neighbor, and what happened was I got mad and I punched him in the mouth for lying at me. And that felt pretty damn good, so I hit him again. I was pissed. And then he's crawling around, so I'm too old to be fighting him. But once I get somebody down, I better make sure they don't get back up. See, I'm 63 years old. I don't even know what the hell I'm thinking about getting that mad in the first place. Especially with a neighbor. I mean, it's horrible behavior. Just got mad. Too mad. But this is a pattern that runs throughout my life. This getting too mad, violent, wanting to hit, smash people's faces. That's all it really is. As soon as I do it, I get over it. It's really weird. It's like, you know, you hit me back, I might continue the fight. But I might not either. I might just say, okay, yeah, we're even now. Let it go. If it ain't too serious. And I should have never got that mad in the first place. Other times there's like barroom brawls or, hell yeah, I stayed fighting mad until everybody was laid out. I used to worry myself sometimes when I was younger. I'd just get so mad, lose it so bad, just keep fighting until everybody's all laying on the floor. Everybody, more than one. And I'm like, God, one of these days I'm just going to kill somebody. I used to just... Living on the res was a peaceful time for me. I mean, I was a pissed off white guy that moved out there. It's like, what the hell is this white guy got pissed off about around us Indians? I'd be mad at the Indians, but they're all happy. Indians are just really some happy people. And they helped me be happy too. I learned how to laugh at myself. Really enjoy myself. Humorous perspective of everything is pretty vivid and strong. I use it a lot. And the Indians help me enhance, really turn into that a lot. Sometimes you just get a worse kind of thing going on, and you just gotta laugh at it like it's funnier than hell. Funnier than hell. I remember one time me and my native brother JR were going around this sharp corner, big high stack of hay on the pickup. Yeah, the hay couldn't hold that corner. Half that load came off that truck right there in that corner. We had hay everywhere. There was a tire on top. Last we seen of that tire, it was bouncing so far off down the hill, across people's pastures and fences, and just gone. That tire was gone. And we just started laughing. It was funnier than hell, dear. And we stood out there and laughed the whole time we picked all that hay up, knocked it off the road. It was a big loss, but we were able to laugh about how funny it was. It was funny. Anyway, so I'm not laughing with the neighbor. He's actually a big irritation half the time. And I lost my patience with him, and I started this fight. And when I so I'm over on his property. I cross the fence. I'm over there in his driveway, kicking him while he's down. And I come to. What the fuck are you doing? You're beating the owner up on his property. So I turned to get the hell out of him. And then he got up and went and got a stick. And I could hear him coming behind me. And here's another weird thing. I've been working with a lot of subconscious programming where it's almost like in a computer where we got a file or a program that our subconscious mind can run at any time. And it will overwrite the regular programming of your regular conscious mind. You know, it's really helpful to think of it in terms of computers. The brain is a computer, and part of our mind, which goes beyond brain, is definitely filtered through the brain, though. And so, you know, we got to kind of work with the brain, too, to be able to access our mind, even though the mind goes way beyond the brain. And the brain divides our mind into conscious and subconscious. That's what, you know, this is all whole. When you're outside of the brain, outside your body, and you're into your more like spiritual mentality, the mentality that goes beyond this body and this brain, subconscious and conscious are one. And it's only through the brain that those two are being even able to split apart. It's like a miracle that what this brain does, being able to split our consciousness into subconscious and conscious, is a fucking miracle. That doesn't happen. Not very often. But that's one of the things that makes humans special throughout the universe. We are able to use our brains to do this. And it separates our reaction to reality from our ability to create reality. The conscious part is the part that we use to react to reality, and the subconscious part is the part of our mind that we use to create reality. And keeping those two separate helps maintain, be in an illusion of reality long enough to really experience things and learn things and gain information from the experience, and to acquire a sense of self that's never existed before. But anyway, we're getting far too long into stuff again. What I want to talk about is while I was fighting it, I felt that Borges feel. Someone that's sick at me. Oh, the files, the subconscious program. A lot of times when subconscious programs operate, that's the best time to find them. It's when they're kicking in. Something's true. And they're running. It's hard to become aware of it. One of the signs that I noticed I've got a program running is you'll seem conscious. You'll feel conscious. You'll feel like this is the way I've always been. It's always been this way. If you're running on a subconscious program, you're overconscious and nail it. You might as well be asleep. You're running on autopilot. Your subconscious is running the program. You are not conscious. This is why a lot of people have trouble waking up, because we're just constantly running around programs from our subconscious mind. Now, very much are fully conscious all the time, or enough of the time. And these programs, they go really. So I spent the last 3 years really cleaning house since I've learned how to do it, and using some more self-hypnosis techniques to really communicate with my subconscious mind more clearly about how to find and rewrite these programs that are destructive or out of place, out of date, don't apply anymore. There's just a lot of these old programs that will run when we don't need them to be running. And it's been like that maybe lifetime after lifetime. Some of them carry from lifetime to lifetime. And that's what I found when I was fighting Danny. This like old Bronze Age warrior training subconscious program came up. And I know how to unarm an armed opponent. You know, people that have swords and spears and shields, and I could feel it, I could see it. And when Danny was running at me with that broomstick, I knew exactly what to do to take it away and not get hurt. And you got to take a little bit of a blow, but you got to move just right to where it's only a glancing blow. And it's not going to, because you got to be that close. If you can't get in close enough to where you're going to feel it a little bit, you're not going to be close enough to get him. And if you come in too close, you're going to get clobbered. And so it's timing and positioning. And the only way I know how to be that precise is to shut my mind down, my emotions, and let my body move on its own. And I learned how to do that in the fire. Or it was one of the first times that I really used it. That's how I got out of the fire. My body got me out of it. I was just going along for the ride. So this force field may be more than just a shield. It may enable me to operate more precisely. I know it helps me operate more precisely and even more strongly. I'm thinking about the fire right now. But I learned to use it in training horses. I mean, when you're working with animals, you cannot be 1 second ahead in time in the future. You cannot be 1 second behind in the past. You've got to be right in the present moment, in the now, all the time, because that's where animals are. That's where you got to be if you're going to communicate with them. And, you know, during that time, I wasn't using the left side of my brain so much, the reading and the writing and all that. I was using much more right brain, much more mindfulness and being in the present moment kind of consciousness. In my work, in my everyday life, in my lifestyle, the natives live like that. They're much more connected on that level. So there was just an environment, like 24/7, a whole different world, work and life and everything. I mean, we used to sweat all the time. We used to go out fast all the time. I really tried to, you know, grow as much spiritually as I could. But there were certain things that just, it completely failed to alter in my life. And a lot of it was subconscious programming. I could sit there and pray all day, but until I learned what subconscious programming was, I was never able to change any of it. It always existed. Anyway, so I'm realizing almost simultaneously, while Danny's swinging the stick and while I'm letting my body move under it enough to take it away from him as soon as because there's another point. When we swing, especially when we swing here, and when we miss, I don't know if you can see it, but my wristband right there. When you feel that weight of that club or whatever, pull your wrist forward from the swing. Your wrist is going to go. That's when you take it out of their hand. You are barely able to hang on to that point. You're in a releasing motion. Your fingers are wanting to release at that point. So you can take anything out of anybody's hand easily at that point. And that's what I did. I took it away from him. I hit him over the head with it and it broke in half. That was into that. And he came at me later. I could come back over the fence to my side, and he come over with a bedpost, that club thing, and kind of hit me up here on top of the shoulder. I just did the same thing. I just went underneath it, took it on the shoulder instead of the back of the head that time. But I barely felt the pressure of it, let alone any real force. I barely felt it even have any pressure. And it broke. The top of it broke off where he hit me. I mean, he hit it hard. He hit me hard enough to break it on me, but I didn't feel it. And I took the rest of it away from him, and I could have just beat to death with him, but I didn't. It was too big, way too big club to be hitting on him with it. So I threw it and dragged him over there, gave him a spanking, and sent him home again. But on the way back across the fence to his place, he saw my rake laying over the fence where this whole fight started, and I left it. And so now he comes at me with a big, heavy-duty garden rake. It's got big, heavy handle. It's a heavy-ass rake. I made a homemade handle for it. And he drove it right on my arm. I mean, I don't know if you can see the puncture marks now. They're pretty much healed up. But, you know, and he's trying his best to just bury that rake right in my head. He was Just like, well, the poor guy, here's the problem. He had a choice to lie or not lie to me. And I had a choice to hit him or not hit him for lying to me. But once I hit Danny and continued to hit him and even after I let up in the driveway, it'd been too much. He had to fight me after. He had no choice. He had to. Just to be able to live with himself. And that's what's terrible. That's, you should never have to, you should never force anybody into that. It's terrible. But I did. And so partly he was coming at me with all this stuff and I was feeling bad for what I made him the way he is right now with that rake. That's the way I was seeing it. It was my own fault. He's coming at me with a rake. I made him this way. Of course I made him this way by hitting him. Danny might be a big liar and a big idiot and a big asshole, but normally he doesn't want to hit people in the head with a rake. I made him that way. And so, once again, I just want to take the rake away and send him home. And I did. When he tried to put it back, I just blocked it with my arm and took it away. But all this ability to disarm him, and I'm feeling it, and I'm moving in it, and I know it's a subconscious program from Bronze Age warrior days. I'm like, what? And it wasn't just one lifetime, it was multiple. We were living to be 20, 25 years old, getting killed on a battlefield, and grow up and do it all over again. They're buku souls who have gone through multiple lives, just living and dying during the Bronze Age on the battlefield. It was the huge thing back then. Battle and death in battle. Everybody wanted to experience that over and over. And don't think you didn't do some killing. You have sunk your sword into many poor, unarmed little warriors out there. Dispatching them while they're laying on the ground, helpless. Done it all. But anyway, somehow I learned an ability to energetically, spiritually, because this energy that I'm talking about is living, conscious, loving energy. You can use it to protect yourself even, like I did, physically. And I've been doing it all my life. I look back on it now, from the fight with Danny to all these earlier experiences in my life, and I'm thinking, well, no wonder. And even now, as I think about it, these other ideas, I remember, there wasn't very many I got in a lot of barroom fights. And there wasn't very many that I lost. But there was one that I did. And I was just zoned out on Quaaludes. And this guy was like, I don't know, 6'6", 350 pounds. And I just waded into him like he was like going to be like this big marshmallow farm boy. And I had no problem taking care of him in about 2 seconds. And I didn't even get a chance. That guy was so quick. And I was probably so fucked up. Anyway, he was fucked up too, I remember that. That's why I thought I had him. He was drunk. But he just grabbed me by the hips, turned me upside down, and pile drive my head right into the floor. I was like Beetle Bailey, man. That was in one move. I was Michael Spinks going against Mike Tyson. What, you remember that minute 30 fight Mike had, knocked somebody out? That was me. I lasted like 10 seconds only. That guy just, God, I was toasted in seconds. Fight over. He just picked me up and just turned me and slammed me. Pile drive me. Probably where I originally screwed up my neck. To this day. Anyway, I'm thinking there was no spirit force then protecting me. No force field did. And I was pretty screwed up in the Quaaludes. It might have been why. Because here's another example when it might have kicked in. I've had like 9 near-death experiences, and 3 were suicide attempts. The third suicide attempt that I made in 2014, I've made so many attempts, well, a couple. I wasn't going to fail this time. I was going to cut my head off. That was the plan. I'll just cut my head off. I can't fail that way. And I had my skinning knife. It's razor sharp. And when I sliced here, boom, it went about an inch deep. I sliced 2 more times, each slice about an inch deeper. I got this big, huge 3-inch gash that's just pouring blood out now. And I was going to do the other side, and it wouldn't cut. Probably the only thing that saved my ass is because I couldn't cut this side. Just, just seconds before I had cut this, boom, boom, boom. And then I went here and nothing would cut. I could not cut that. It was like the force field came on, and it would not let me cut. You can see where these little tiny scratches where the blade was trying. It would not go through it. And I had no clue what happened at that time. I go, why? I couldn't figure out how in the hell did this side ever not cut. I just figured maybe it was just the pressure. Maybe it was a scar tissue, skin graft, just all thicker and tougher. But in a lot of ways, it's more fragile than regular skin. But it is thicker. But after the fight with Danny and the neighbor, and this whole eviction thing, I've seen it. That was spirit force kicking in. It was like the pain or just the knowledge of being cut and injured that deeply. My spirit force kicked in. And that's what the original name was for it when I was first experiencing it through psychedelics, was spirit force. But it's really like a force shield. And I saw it much more clearly with Danny as a force shield. Some kind of new superpower. And there's other awarenesses, there's other things I'm realizing about myself that are kind of in line with like paranormal concepts and abilities that have kind of been present throughout my life to a certain extent, but now they're becoming more so, and I can see them and look at them and understand what they are now. And it used to just be like things would just happen, like some kind of weird paranormal experience of some sort, where something would just happen that's just not supposed to happen, and it would. And I'd always like, well, how'd that happen? How'd I do that? And, that's another thing. People that know me know I have a history of performing physical feats that just shouldn't have been possible. And it's just out of the blue, I'll just do them. People seen it. And there's a lot of people on my Facebook friends list who are those people. They've seen me do this shit, and they know I have a reputation for it where I grew up. It was always kind of made a name for myself just because I was always pulling off something that shouldn't have been able to be done physically. And it wasn't like I could, plan it or do it all the time. It would just happen. And I never understood it, and I never knew what it was, but it was weird. And now I see it is me. All these paranormal kind of like experiences that were going on outside me are actually aspects of myself. And what this fight has led to was an eviction, automatic eviction from my home. Me and the landlord get along great. He's one of the kindest, most lenient landlords I've ever had. Maybe the best. He's the one. He actually lowered rent for me when he saw I was having too much trouble trying to pay the rent and the bills both. From $300 to $250 a month. Plus, I've done a lot of work on the property to fix it up. Not much on the house. There's not much you can do with the house. But, I put the garden in and all kinds of stuff like that, and it was looking a lot better. But this house either needs to be completely redone or it's just going to come apart. It is coming apart. And so it has these like outside events, these occurrences, the fight, the ensuing eviction, and where all that's going. It's waking up stuff, an ability to observe the energies within me. Instead of just looking at the surface level of the fight and the eviction and all this, I'm seeing like these energetic ripples that I've created that are going out into the world, and the world's responding. Danny's over here picking up weapons, landlord's telling me I'm evicted. And before it gets any worse, I realized dude, you got to get out in front of those energies. Because my first reaction was, oh no, I can't be evicted. We can't do this. I've already started this. The energies are already going out. But I'm like back here going, oh no, don't do this. Since the responses start coming in. And it's like you can feel yourself just kind of like curl up and go inside. Ball up. Go, no, I don't want to. But really, and you're trying to drag heels. You're trying to go against the energy that you created. You're trying to make it not happen this way. And you just kind of like contract and just retract into yourself very tightly. When I needed to get out, I needed to get outside, and I needed to get out in front of those energies. And so that meant accepting I'm being evicted. Accepting that I caused this whole situation, and there ain't no change in it. The best thing I can do now is like get out in front of the energies and guide them a little bit more effectively than just letting them take me wherever they're going to end up. So, to work with it, I had to accept the fact that I'm getting evicted. The eviction is imminent. There's no change in that. But I can say where and when. If I get out there and energy. The first thing I came across was a moratorium that the Center for Disease Control had put out about evictions. When COVID got bad and everybody had to stay home, they put a stay on all landlords being able to evict people. Even if you owed rent, you couldn't get evicted. If you didn't have a safer, or if you didn't have a place that was as safe as the place you lived in or safer to move into, then you couldn't be evicted. They wanted to keep you home. And it's still in place. It's probably not as necessary or as maybe enforced. I think it's starting to probably even come apart now in places. But New Mexico put a law in place, and there's a federal law that landlords can't evict as easily as they used to. And so I run that by my landlord and put a monkey wrench in the whole process. He wanted me out in 7 days. He just couldn't hardly stand it. I got in a fight with Danny. I don't know if him and Danny are good buddies or what, but he was madder and hell. And Danny's just a big idiot ass drunk. I mean, that's all he does is drink beer all the time and lie. But he's a pretty good guy. He's helpful. He helps a lot of people. He just sits around and drinks beer. He ain't got nothing better to do than help everybody. But a lot of people really appreciate him for that. And it's good. It's a good quality. But anyway, so I'm trying to get out in front of these energies. I'm starting to realize there's this huge old violent anger warrior program running. And sometimes, it's even while I... Nobody declined. Even while I was growing up, I'd end up fighting family this way. My poor brothers, jeez, smashed in the face all the time. And as I got older and teenage, it was my parents, and I couldn't even hardly deal with my parents without blowing up. I'd just leave. And then that became the outcome. Because the problem was, it wasn't always just strangers or people next door or people down at the bar. It was people that I was in close relationship with. Family, loved ones, girlfriends, partners, really good friends, guys. And sometimes, especially the guys, they could take it. If they were a little bit like me, they'd just dish it right back. But, and we'd all just get over it. Just kind of like brothers or whatever. I don't know. It's a weird, screwed up idea of being brothers. Punch each other out and then still love each other and go on. But it was like that. That was the best I could do. And if you couldn't do it with me, then I could really, I'd leave. If it was getting to the point where I felt like I was going to smash somebody that I really loved and didn't really want to smash them, I'd just leave. That became my way of life, always leaving, always heading out, always having to take off. And they would want me to leave. I'm mad, pissed off, ready to punch them in the face. Of course they want me out of there. And so that's the way it would end up. And now the real problem is, 80, 90% of the time, I'm pretty happy-go-lucky, and I can actually do a lot of good for myself and others, and really build it up and get in a good place with it. And then have one of these violent outbreaks of anger and shit, it'll just wreck everything good that I've done. I'm at ground point zero all over again. I just destroyed it all. And that's the way it goes. You got to start all over. It's tough. Anyway, so I'm going through this eviction thing, and the first thing I realize is this pattern. I'm talking about it now like I've been aware of it, but really I'd only realized these things after the fight about a month ago. This huge ass pattern that was just always throughout my life, erupting and making me homeless, making me have to move, making me have to leave, and destroying all the good that I might have done there previously. The only place it didn't happen was when I was living with Rapo in Wyoming. That was a peaceful period of my life. I had a few fights there, but they weren't me blowing up. They weren't me trying to destroy everything good or punch somebody I loved in the face. They were usually some asshole that nobody liked. That's what it was. It was exactly who it was. J.R. or Warren and Tuffy Miller, or whatever the hell his dumb last name was. That idiot took a shovel at me. I was happy I beat him up. Everybody shaking my hand, saying, "Oh, good job." Anyway, so that just reinforced all my goodness and ability to stay at home. I wasn't coming from that violent outburst of anger, though. That's not where I was coming from. It was just coming from, having to fight, because sometimes we have to fight. Which is very different. Very different than being on the attack. I'm very much on the attack the other way. And it's taken many forms. These violent outbursts, they aren't just always just hitting somebody in the face. I've got mad enough to want to rape girlfriends, and rape them. They're not really rape in the sense of sex. They're more like some kind of punishment. Some kind of, I can't hit you in the face because you're a girl, but here, let me make you take my dick. Kind of thing. And it's all violent. It's all anger. It's all let me hurt you. It always destroys everything good I ever had before that. And the minute it's gone, it's like it's not even how I really felt. It's tough. Looking at ourselves. The truth about ourselves. It's tough. We go through this world in denial. But now I'm seeing more about myself and about energies and all this stuff and how it works. And so my first plan to deal with this eviction was to hitchhike south. I have to leave my pets, my cat, my dog. Heartbreaking. I've been practicing a lot of ability. I've been trying to enhance my ability to really attain these levels and states of being that are of unconditional love. My mind can't even hardly go there. It's just beyond the intellect's comprehension. You've got to open up a different capacity, a different comprehension of soul, of heart, of something else to go there even. If you're using your mind, you'll never reach unconditional love. The mind is going to come up with too many reasons why not to be unconditional. That's what the mind does. That's its job. Unconditional what? Fuck that. Let me show you. And it'll give you a whole bunch of reasons why not. And you got to go beyond all that. And unconditional love is beyond all that. And you realize that all those reasons didn't matter when you get beyond them. They matter right now while you're in your head. But once you get out of your head and go here and get out past it all, they don't matter no more. They were stupid reasons. The only thing that's important is unconditional love. And attaining it, and living in it as much as possible. Letting love guide every choice, every direction. If I'd have used love to talk to Danny that day, I would have been forgiving and understanding of why he's lying to me. He's got too many cats, he didn't know what to do with them. Real simple. Of course, I'm upset because I'm burying baby kittens because he can't take care of them. They're all over at my place, and I'm trying to deal with his overflow. And the energy of that young life is just it's so barely here, you know. You gotta help it stay here. It's not gonna stay. It's gonna be the body and go back before they even get their eyes open. And that's what happened. And all three of these cats have had kittens now, and none of them were very, I don't know, they've lost a lot of kittens. All of them. Even the third one that wasn't involved in the earlier fiasco. 3 mama cats all having kittens all at the same time. She had hers just recently. I noticed. I think she kept one alive. She let the rest die. And the last time I went to look for them, they weren't even there. So she knew they were there, and apparently something moved them. It had to be her. But she waited until they died or almost died, or I don't know what. I just decided to leave them alone. Just leave them alone. They're wild cats. And my cat, he's wild. His mama was a stray, and she had 2 batches of kittens here. They've all died. They've all got ate by coyotes or owls or something. Toby is the only one that has survived. And right now, for all the cats that are around here, he's older than them all. He's the oldest cat. Because cats don't last long around here. They get 8. They just disappear. This last year we're here. Owl poop. Anyway, Toby's black, and he's managed to survive. Been, got very attached to him. We're very much in love with each other. It's deep. We got a deep love. And Delton, the dog, oh my God, he just is absolutely just the most amazing animal. He's not even like a dog or a wolf. He's some kind of, it's like he's a hybrid, mix of wolf husky, but, which are, huskies are notorious for being very intelligent and creative and interactive in a very creative way. Like Delta, he knows how to make jokes. He's smart enough to know how to make a fucking joke. Just super smart. I can talk to him real easy. And just tell him things. I don't even have to train him. I just tell him things. But he has a home here with Danny too. That's where he came from in the first place. So he'll be okay. He can stay here. It's just his territory. He's got all his dog buddies here. He'd be much better to stay in here. And plus, it's a cool spot for him. It gets hot. It gets hot real easy down here. It's always trying to stay cool, that dog. He loves it when it gets like below 40. When it's below 50 degrees, 40 degrees, that's when he's happy. That's when it's hard for me. I can't be outside when it gets down below 60 or 50. It's hard for me. I got that going on. This big part of my limitation is I get worse in the cold. And I'm thinking about going south for warmer weather, which would be worse for Delta. And like I say, Toby's basically a stray, and he's real tame and in love with me, but he don't want. If another person comes in the house while Toby's in the house, he about throws himself through the window to get away from that person. He don't trust no other human being whatsoever. He won't even come near him. He's stray. He's wild. And so I don't see him moving much either. I have to leave these guys. How long have I been out here? I'm still going. I needed to get this off my chest, you guys. That's what I'm doing. I just need to... like all this stuff is just playing in my head round and round and round. I need to get it verbalized. Got to get it lined out there in a way. It's not all just coming at once. I've got to leave these animals. So maybe go find a place. Maybe I can hitchhike down south to Tularosa, about 170 miles. and maybe find a rental I can afford there. I know my price range is just so low. I get $793 a month, less than $800 a month. If I go over $350, which is about 45% of my check, it just eats up too much of my check. I don't got enough to pay the bills, especially in the wintertime when the heating costs get high. I got to keep it down $350 or lower. $350 is just almost too much. $300 works. $250 is more like it if the heating costs are going to be high. I need even less than $300. But if I get down south and I got less heating costs, I can afford a little bit more for rent. Maybe as high as $350. But what was the last place you saw in the one ads for a place listed to rent for $350? Been a while. And so I can't just go the normal route, looking in ads and things. I'm not going to find nothing in the town. I'm not going to find nothing in the ads, very likely, that are. And then plus, if they do end up there, somebody with a car and all that ability to really get around better than I can, call, even have access to a newspaper or an ad faster than I can, they're going to get to it first. What I've got to do is exactly how I found this place. It found me. Is what I had. And I was out there where I could be found, and telling people I was looking for a place, and that's how I found it. It's word of mouth, bumping into people I didn't even know, and so I see that pattern. That's how I found my home in Wyoming. And this place being the way, but it was a really good place to find. And it helped me get to where I kind of been through some changes these last 2 years on physical levels, therapy levels, spiritual, my spiritual understanding, and how I kind of interact with my mind, my subconscious is much different. I have much more understanding. I mean, I've always been a spiritual person, and I've always practiced meditation and different things, sweat lodges, tons of sweat lodges. I've been in hundreds of sweat lodges, twice a week for damn near 20 years. But Sundance, these practices, they kind of keep you on that road, that path to where I'm at now, I guess. But where I'm at now, it's like ever since I turned 60, things just started revealing themselves more. Processes, just the way it all is. I could just see it better. I mean, I could just see it for the first time. Actually see it, just like comprehend it in my mind, almost like in a visualized way, and like, oh, I see how it works now, kind of thing. And that's still going on. It's going deeper and deeper, and there's more and more stuff that's more complex. And so this whole this whole event really set off an inner process. And I'm starting to see the correlation. I'm not only seeing the patterns that exist throughout my life about all this, but there is a direct correlation about inner aspects of myself and what I feel like I am created as, affecting the outer events of my life. Who I am inside is creating the outer events of my life, and I can see it. I can see where they're connected, and I can see it happening. I'm like, oh my God. So that elevated the ball game way up. I'm not just looking for a home no more. I'm looking for a purpose. I'm not just getting out in front of these energies to guide them through an eviction. I'm getting out in front of these energies to guide them through a transformation. And it's scary as fuck, because it means I really got to put my faith out there in God. I mean, the real thing, where you just finally like, okay, I'm going to let everything go and just put it all in God's hands. My whole life. Put myself out there on the road, no home, no whatever. I've got a little income from my disability check. And just let God provide, really trust that. Because the times that I have done that in the past, I've never done it fully, but I've done it enough to where it really paid off. There was nothing else I could do. I had to do it that way. And it led to a home in Wyoming. It led to a home here in Villanueva. And I'm on this Highway 3. And it's heading south from here. I'm thinking, take it further. And it's mirroring where I'm going further inside myself. Going south on Highway 3 further is the same as going deeper inside myself. They're the same. The way I created this garden, there's a lot out here in front of this house. You can see it out the window, maybe. That's where I had that garden out there. And it was a junkie. There was a guy who used to live here that collected junk. It was all just a big junk pile out there. And they had a bunch of window panes and stuff, and it all broke. And then there was a hog pen out there, and it all collapsed. And there's just a big mess out there. And big scattered junk buried in the dirt everywhere. It was basically like a refuse pile that had been, removed, but all the shit, the garbage and shit in the dirt was still there. I got out through my knees. I cleaned it all up. It took weeks. Every piece of glass damn near I could find. Every piece of garbage. I mean, you couldn't put a shovel in the dirt without hitting something. I put a file straight down in the dirt, just had a little point. And it hit on a big, I can't even remember what it was. It hit on something, though. I couldn't believe it. You couldn't hardly just stick something skinny in the ground without hitting something. Anyway, I got it all dug up, cleaned up, made a nice garden out of it. And I understood that to be a reflection of the inner spiritual process that I've been going through, the unfolding, becoming more, coming into my own empowerment, my own self-realization was being manifested and reflected through this garden. And the way I'd cleaned up the dirt and put a garden in that dirt was basically exactly what I'd just done inside myself. I'd cleaned up all this old garbage. I was planting new stuff, and it was coming out really good inside. And right before this fight and eviction, I'd forgotten about the process inside that was really just, the main thing. The garden was only a reflection. The outer garden was only a reflection of what was going on inside me. And I lost focus on what was going on inside me, started to focus on the garden. I spent a lot of money, a lot of time and energy getting ready for this year to really double up on garden. I forgot about the inner process going on. For a month, I wasn't even hardly working with it at all. It was all total focus on outside, on the garden, and there was a lot of work to be done. And I don't have very much ability, so I'm really trying to focus all my ability on the work that needs to be done. And I just didn't leave nothing for spiritual inner process of anything. And that might have been why I was in the state I was in when I chose to hit Danny. I really hadn't been keeping myself on a very level energy. I was up and down. Kind of bouncing along there. So anyway, now I'm starting to realize this correlation between these inner aspects and the outer events. And I'm realizing that instead of just finding a home, I really never found maybe I don't have a purpose. Maybe I have multiple purposes. And I probably lived out some of them fairly well. But I still need more. I still need a new purpose. What I'm doing now is not enough. Living here in Villanueva, growing a garden that doesn't produce enough vegetables and flowers to really make enough money off anything is probably not the best ticket to be invested in, especially if the house isn't going to last more. This house is coming down. That was the second thing that happened. The roof in my bedroom is starting to give. I knew it wouldn't be long. I've been propping it up ever since I've been living here with beams and 2x4s in the other room next door where it's really coming down, the outside room. But my bedroom is right next to that on the other side of the wall, and it kind of pulls on the roof above my bedroom. But that one's falling down on the other side. And it's just nobody wants to take care of it. It's a 100-year-old adobe. It's falling apart. Done. And you know, I never once had hot water in the kitchen sink. This place was before plumbing. We got a modern bathroom on the end back here with some hot water and running water back here that you can get. But I've always had to wash my clothes in the tub. Never had running hot water in the kitchen. It's a little bit of a trick to live here. A little primitive. But I even told that to Steve. I started to see the energies of this, and I told Steve, I go, I'll bet you this fight, this eviction, my landlord, Steve is my landlord. I go, I bet you it's all happening because this house is getting ready to come undone, and it's a way of getting me out of here before it does. It's like, get out now while you've got a better chance to do something than sitting here waiting until the last minute and have, like, fully invested in the garden, fully whatever I've been doing all summer long, and then have it fall apart in the monsoon during August, because that's what's going to happen. It started to fall apart during a heavy rainstorm the other day with a lot of wet hail in it. There was a lot of weight to it that sat on the roof. My ceiling broke, and it just started pouring in my bedroom. And so we get a lot of heavy rain in August during the monsoon, and I know this is the end of this roof. It's not going to make it through monsoon. It barely made it through last year. I've been wondering about it all winter. Anyway, so it's time to go. Whether I got in a fight and got evicted or whether the house falls down, it's all the same. It's all telling me it's time to go. And so I'm thinking, where? It's hard for me to move. I don't got no vehicle. I don't got no damn money. A lot of people my age, 63 years old, it's not that big a deal to get evicted or have to move. You got enough money in a vehicle, you just do it. Go find another place. Me, I just don't want to live just any place. I can't stand living in town, hardly. I don't get along with people. End up hitting them. Sooner or later. I know I don't want to be pushing myself living in town. Shit, I lived in Lander, Wyoming. I was fighting guys in their 20s and their 30s. Within a half a dozen fights, I'd always end up in court or so. But they'd never show up because they were the little jerks that were out there doing drug deals and crap. And they were really the ones that were, outlawing. They didn't want to go to court, so I'd always get dismissed. But I just, after I got evicted that first time in Wyoming, I was out there in the streets trying to survive. I didn't give a shit. These little jerks out there that think you can hustle you and rip you off, they think that old man can't fight. And then kicked their asses right there in the front of the convenience store when I caught them next. I didn't give a shit. Everybody knows me this way. I was doing pain pills for a couple of years. From about 2012 to about 2016, 4 years. And I was out there in that damn hustle trip for them damn pain pills out in the streets. Got evicted. And I had my own prescription, but use them all up and run out, and then you'd have to buy stuff on the street. And that was the whole thing. I've been addicted. I was a junkie all through my 20s. I know what that dead-end road is like. It's the same dead end it's always been. And I kind of avoided getting on pain meds for my pain for a couple of years because I knew that. It's pointless. And really, it's not like, pain meds are good if you got something temporary. If you've been injured and for like a month or two, you need to be on some pain meds while you're healing and getting better. Yeah. But when you're getting older, and it's just a degeneration process where your body's just falling apart, it's going to hurt. Pain meds aren't the answer. Because this process could go on for a long time. And you can't just take pain meds for the rest of your fucking life. You might live another 20, 30 years as an old person. What are you going to do? Eat pain meds all that time? No. They're way too toxic. By the time you eat them for a couple of years, you're fucking all fucked in the head anyway. It don't take long. Too toxic. Anyway, it was the same old dead end. I quit them. I just quit them. I quit all. Well, by the time I started pain meds and was on them for 4 years, they put me on 4 other medications. And so I'm on like 5 monthly medications. And it's like December 2016. I'm like, what in the hell's going on? I never used to be on any of these medications. I never needed any of them before. And I just quit them all. Pain meds, all of it. And that was it. They were done. But there was also a shift going on. I didn't realize it at that time either. But this whole shift that I'm going through now is actually becoming a little bit more prevalent or having a little bit more obvious effect in my life at that point even. I think that's why I was able to just quit them so easily. I had no clue at the time. I just knew I needed to quit. I did. Anyway, so I'm dealing with all this anger, destruction, violence against neighbors, loved ones, girlfriends. My twin flame that I made a post about a couple days ago. This woman, when we met, she was married. And I just ignored that fact. It was stupid. Couldn't help it. Our connection was so strong, I felt like I had more right to be with her than her husband. We had this super old spiritual connection. And I'm not sure if what we term as twin flame and what we understand the concept as is really just a level of consciousness, a state of consciousness, a state of being, a type of consciousness. As we expand our consciousness, there's kind of different levels, different types that we encounter where our consciousness is just a little affected and operating differently. And you can recognize it as such, and like from within, it's yourself. You're seeing yourself being different. And like when we hit a soulmate level, it might just be a type of consciousness. Or if we go deeper into twin flame, it might just be a type of consciousness. And if we go even deeper than that into unconditional love, it's just a type of consciousness. They're not even levels against each other. They're just different types of consciousness that are more and more towards the eternal state of love, unconditional love, but never ending. In this world, the only way things keep going in mortality is through the death and rebirth process. In eternity, the death and rebirth process doesn't exist. It's eternity. It just always is, always will be. And that's always another big story in itself. But that's where the unconditional love comes from. That's why it's always got that permanent, that constant level to it. It's eternal. And that might be where mine and Amanda's union comes from, is on that eternal, unconditional love. But living down here in the real world was very different. She's married, and she's married to somebody who's got a ton of money. I mean, more money than Trump. This guy makes skyscrapers and buildings in Manhattan, New York, and he's a billionaire. His family's billionaires. They're an Iranian Jews, I guess, some kind of Jewish family from Iran, Persia. They're old. The guys have had money in their families when Iran was Persia. And she married this guy. Been married to him for decades. Got 2 kids. She's always talking about leaving. She bought a place in Wyoming. Bought property in a house. Put me up in it. My nephew walked into that house, and it was a dope house, man. Dope earth house. Nephew walks, he goes, "Uncle, you're like king of the side bitches, aren't you?" Billy's gone now. My nephew's gone. Everybody's gone. I don't have very many people left in my life that I was real close to. All my real close friends are pretty much gone. Loved ones and relatives passed on. It got to a point, me and Amanda trying to play house, and it wasn't working. And I was getting angry. I'm getting angry with her. Mostly just because she couldn't be with me the way we wanted to. And she, and I understood it wasn't going to be easy for her to leave her husband. But I didn't understand it was going to be impossible. And that's what I know now. When you're married into that level of wealth, it's impossible to leave that lifestyle. It's just, you've got people who will go spend your money for you. You don't even have to go spend your money. You can hire somebody to go do that. Everything. When Sandy hit Long Island, they live on Long Island. They got the biggest mansion on Long Island, the mansions. When Sandy hit Long Island, all the rich people that live in mansions went to their mansion on the hill because they got the biggest, best, highest mansion. So what's that tell you? These guys are the buku of the buku. They're the elite of the elite. No way. Look at me. I'm just an old hayseed from a reservation. Don't know nothing or nobody. I barely got a pickup truck, a saddle, and a cowboy hat. Jesus. That's what I own. It was all crippled up, no place to go. We found each other. There was a point where I had to find out. And I pushed her by raping her. I think a lot of times all of us have experienced, making a sexual advance that was very aggressive to the point of rape almost, but our partner was willing, so it's pretty hard to rape the willing, but it was like that, where it wasn't rape because the partner was willing. But if they hadn't been willing, they might have been rape if you didn't stop. You would have had to stop. And that was Amanda. She wasn't willing. And I didn't stop until it wasn't much of a rape, but just enough. I told her you didn't want it, push it out. She did. I didn't even just get really violent just to get that far. It was so violent, it wasn't even turned on anymore. As far as arousal goes. It was an ugly, violent attack on somebody that I loved who had probably shown me more love and kindness than anybody on this planet. Poor woman used to lie and do everything she could to be there for me while she was married to somebody else. And I repaid her. And she bought a house, she bought property. I never had to leave town without hundreds of dollar bills in my pocket ever again. It was all wrong, though. All I wanted was her. I didn't want all that. I wanted her. I couldn't have it. And I knew I was too weak and too in love to ever leave her. So I had to make her hate me. I had to make her hate me so bad she would never, ever speak to me again. And I did. But she hasn't. And I don't blame her. And as long as she's married, I can't talk to her. It's just no good to talk to her or anything. I would like to say I'm sorry. I think she knows. I hope she knows. Because I feel like everything I'm going through right now is what she's going through too on her end. Somehow we're still connected. I still feel her. I still know what she goes through. And I know she's going through the same things in her own way. The same growth process. Well, mine's really getting huge now. Entertaining the idea of going on this peace walk. Pretty funny. When I'm just straight, I really don't think this is a very good idea, this peace walk. Being out there camping out on the side of the road, walking cross country. Not even trying to hitchhike. It was about walking. Taking a backpack, a little bit of cover and sleeping bag, and just walking. Go down to Tularosa first, see how I do for 170 miles. But turn it into more, maybe cross country from coast to coast or whatever I can handle, and make a real walk out of it for peace in the world. Take somebody who's like me, so violently angry inside, and who's transforming it, and reflect it out into the world by walking for peace. Every step of the way is going to be a step of my transformation. It's not going to be about finding peace in myself. It's about bringing that peace out into the world too, making everybody aware of it. Because really where this violence and anger is all coming from is an inner conflict that we all have in our soul. I know I have it in my soul. That's where I've traced it to. This is ancient. It's an inner conflict. This is like the inner oldest conflict between God, devil, light, dark. We're at war within ourselves over this. All the outer conflict that exists in the world is from the inner conflict within ourselves about this. And I see it now. And that's why I want to make it about peace for the world. Because I know when I can change this inner conflict within myself, it's going to affect the outer conflicts in the world. It's going to increase the level of peace. And that's huge. And I don't know if I'm capable. I just don't even know if I'm physically capable to want to choose to be able to get out there and do that and then find out I'm not physically capable. But that's where I'm at. And that's where I think this is all going. So anyway, I'm sitting here waiting for orders for backpack and sleeping bag and stuff that I made from Amazon. I don't have long left in this house. And the weather's shitty outside today. It makes me worry about being out there. I do bad in cold weather, sleeping on the ground, being in the cold. Oh, God. But the further I head south, the warmer it's going to get. Summer's coming. And maybe, I mean, I'm really off in La La Land now, but I'm thinking if I walk, maybe Toby and Delta will want to come with me. If they follow, I won't make them go back. I'll let them come. We'll just... I mean, it's just so crazy. Think of all three of us out there walking on the side of the road, God knows where. But it's like that. And what's really funny, I grew a bunch of different plants last year that I had grown from the seeds from the plants before, the year before that. Is I'm really connected deeply with these plants. And I use a technique where I suck on the seeds to infuse the plants with my DNA information so they can really respond to my DNA in whatever ways they're capable of. And what I'm noticing, since all this has happened, when I smoke a certain plant, I numbered them all. And I keep them all separate because they all have a little bit the same, but they're a little bit different too. And this one number 5 plant, I've noticed it's got kind of like a real spiritual influence to it. Out of all the other plants, it's the strongest. That way, it's kind of like a spiritual mindset. Insights. Nice spiritual communication from that plant. And it's the one that tells me I'm supposed to be out there on the peace march or making a walk for peace. That's where this is coming from. It's coming from that plant. Every time I smoke it, I'm feeling real good about getting out there and doing a peace walk. I'm like, oh yeah, I see I can do this. I can do this. And then when I'm smoking one of the other plants or just straight, I'm like, what the fuck am I thinking of? And that's it, you know. It's like our minds are always working that way towards our spirituality. We deep down inside, we know just to let it go. Dive in. But our minds are always going, wait a minute. What about house? What about car? What about modern lifestyle? You know, we live in this peak of technology. Modern conveniences are just, you know, buku, wonderful. This is the easiest time mankind has ever had, you know, to live ever. And you want to do this primitive thing where you're laying on the ground, no electricity, no heat, walking for peace. Good luck with that. But I feel it. And I'm probably going to do it. We'll check it out. We'll see how it goes down between here and Tularosa. Let me try to walk 170 miles from here to Tularosa. We'll see where it goes from there. Or at least maybe just until I find a place to go. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know who's all watching this. But I'm glad I got all this out. I'll probably realize I missed a lot of things and want to talk about them too, but I'll write that out. I'll try to add a caption to this video. But I guess I'm done. All right, peace out, everybody.